specifically, but also how that is reflected in the work that is done at the border. So even with the original lineup, looking at it, because Vicente is a, actually real quick, I'm gonna allow you guys just to talk a little bit more, introduce yourself, your pronouns, what organizations, publications you may or may not be associated with, I don't know. And just briefly describe the work that you do. So I'll start with James in person.
Hi, everyone. I'm James Stout. I work primarily for Cool Zone Media, which is a podcast suite that is part of iHeartMedia. I cover conflict and the border, and sometimes climate change.
Right. Thank you. James, what media moves or how is the migrant framed in the media, and how does that affect your work?
I mean, if you turn on the TV, like on a daily basis, that you would see that what the media is portraying is that there is an invasion.
Right.
And what is not being portrayed at the same time is that at any given point in time, people can be stopped as the government has shown in the past that they can restrict people if they choose to, whether that's legal or not. That's not for me to speak on. I'm not a lawyer, but it's happening, and it's all orchestrated in a way to sway polls, sway politics, and there's pictures being shown of people going over the fence or sneaking through concertina or barbed wire or something like that, and it doesn't show the family that's all huddled together close to a fire trying to keep warm at night because it's freezing cold. Border Patrol is stalling people out, keeping them out in the elements, and also it's being spoken about as apprehensions and arrests, and it's not mentioned as so much, which I see a little bit, but before, like when it first was starting to go on, they would say arrests, apprehensions, and sometimes it's being used as encounters, but it should also be counted as cases. Right. Because that's really what it comes down to. It takes the personal level kind of off the migrant themselves and makes it like a broader scene. And so for that, people see an invasion, and it's led to far right extreme YouTubers, fake media, personal Facebook, people with a camera coming out and harassing people and lying and just trying to get that sensationalism to rile up people, whether it's a grift to, sell their own product or to hopefully be invited one day to a January 6th convention by Trump or something like that. So it's definitely, the media needs to put more of a personal touch and stop, talking about, okay, well, it's this country, so it's these people, and it's this and that and the other. It's like, make it human. Talk to migrants when you can. And you see a lot of media doesn't do that. And because maybe they don't speak the language, but, there's translation apps. And a lot of us that spend time on the border and do work on the border, if we encounter folks, a lot of times we don't speak their language as well, but you make do, and you find a way to make that happen, to learn and to get to know where people are coming from. Because once you get to know where people are coming from and the reasons why, then it just brings a whole new level of humanity to the game.
That's absolutely right. Right. Yeah, in the year of our Lord 2024, there's no reason to not be able to use, Google Translate. And then also, there's some things that are universal languages, right? Like hungry child, like cold person, desperation. You can see it and understand it whoever you encounter. Thank you for that. I'm curious. I want to focus on that idea of the framing of migration as invasion, of foreign invasion. We've seen specifically, well, especially with those right-wing YouTubers, streamers, this idea of like pointing out specifically the military-age males that come around and saying that NGOs are aiding and abetting foreign combatants. It almost makes me laugh. Like I can't even get it out because it's so ludicrous. And it is ridiculous. And at the same time, we see the militarization of our border in the infrastructure and in the propaganda and the rhetoric used by Border Patrol and the Department of Homeland Security. So whereas it is ridiculous, it permeates in a really deep, profound way. And so I'm wondering specific ways you see that pop up in the infrastructure, or maybe as press, your ability to engage and find the truth with these stories. Like, how does the militarization of the border affect your work? That's a very broad question.
Yeah, it's very broad. Like everything that we both do, I think, is to a degree about that, right? If there wasn't a big wall and dudes with guns, nearly 95% of them are dudes, right? patrolling around it, then both of our work would be very different, right? And probably much less traumatic. But yeah, this military-age male, first of all, I just have to waste my time dismissing this thing when what I want to be doing is sharing these people's stories, right? Like I'll give one example. There was these young men from Syria. A lot of these right-wing YouTubers, right? So Border Patrol in an open-air detention site will first take the women and the children, and then take the men later on the idea that the men are like stronger and able to deal with it. We don't need to talk about the suppositions behind that, but like that's what they do. I guess at some point somebody filmed some Syrian guys in 511 clothing, which is a kind of a military, like a value military brand that's pretty common among military contractors in the US. And they were like, oh, these guys are clearly soldiers. If you've ever set foot in Syria, you cannot move for men wearing 511 clothing. It is a lifestyle. You cannot walk down a street. I have 511 lighters. I have 511 flip-flops that I bought in Syria. I have fake 511 everything. Like it is the national brand. Like it's a laughable suggestion that these people are military. Like also, if you were looking to invade the United States, you wouldn't surrender to Border Patrol and pass your documents. It's asinine. Look, we could shoot holes in it all day. What it does is it treats people as a threat when we should be meeting them with compassion. And we have to spend so long re-engineering that dynamic in our reporting that we don't get as much time to tell people's stories. And we have to confront that every day. Every interaction you have with a Border Patrol agent, right? They're often aggressive. They're often rude because they've convinced themselves that this country is being invaded, perhaps, and they're afraid. I don't know. I can't speak for them. I don't understand how they think. But it makes my job so much more dangerous, right? Like, you've got these National Guard guys running around armed. Some of them are very young. Some of them are clearly quite afraid. And that makes it more dangerous for me, but not just me, right? Like, I'm a 6'3" white guy, and I go through the world like that. But if I'm a Sikh man or a Muslim woman, right, then we all know that the military-industrial complex sees those people differently, and it makes it more dangerous for them too. And it's pointless. We've spent so much money on this, and like our friends have made sandwiches for people for a year now because the government hasn't provided them with any food. We've spent tens of thousands of dollars on water because the government doesn't do that. It's all a performance, right? It's a performance to demonize and other migrants who we could very easily welcome and accept.
Right. And more cheaply.
Yeah, exactly.
Like if you want to be cold and callous and calculating in that regard as far as the money, you know, but it isn't about that, right? It's about convincing the hearts and minds of America, right?
And this is a dynamic that we've seen again and again and again. Like if you look at this British panic about the Windrush generation, it was the same thing. Young men and they're coming to take our women. And that, to a degree, is what this is about, right? I can tell you, I've seen women fighting just as capably as men, right? I was in Rojava, the women there fought and defeated ISIS, right? It's nothing about invasion, but it is this kind of they're stealing our women. It's a panic deeply rooted in race and racism, and we just have to waste so much of our time addressing that.
Yeah, absolutely. James, what do you have to say on that?
I think a lot of it starts with indoctrination at an early level, especially with the military. As James said, the National Guard, they always seem like they're just always on edge. They're a lot younger, and they don't have as much experience, interactions with people, especially people from all over the world. And so the indoctrination and brainwashing that they've received is that anyone not from here is the enemy. And you'll even see that in Border Patrol who have served in the military. You'll see that, for the most part, they're the ones that are a lot harder on the migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers than other agents, at least from my encounter, that maybe have not served, and they, can be around 500 strangers and only 2 or 3 agents and not be worried about a thing. I've seen that time and time again. But then you have certain agents that are just, flying off the handle, as James said, being rude, being aggressive, yelling at people, threatening people, and it's a lot of, personal grievances or personal attacks that these agents are having, and that is just due to longstanding, you got the Border Patrol unions, telling their people how bad, all these people are, and that there's terrorists crossing over, and that there's dangerous people, and, this, that, and the other. And I can say, honestly, I have never once had an interaction with someone who's crossed over looking for help to where I'm like fearful. And that's not to infantilize anybody at all. It's just people who you speak to, and you see the conditions, and you're actually getting down there on a human level. You see where people are coming from, and you meet them where they're coming from. And that's a big thing that the government treats, the system and people as numbers. And it's just, the change starts inside, and it may not be official policies, but there's policies in the government of how to act and how to, treat people. And it may be more on local levels than national levels, but, I've seen agents all over the place. Some spots are nicer to people, and then some are a lot worse. And I've, had interactions before with agents that do like rescue, and they, treat people as like a case, and they're like, okay, I need to solve this case. I need to get this case off my list. So I'm going to go and I'm going to do my best to try to, rescue this person or whatever. And they don't see people as human either. And so it just, I'll keep beating this over the head, is that you have to meet people, on a humane level. And that's the only way that there's going to be, compassion.
Absolutely, yeah, and it goes back to centering migrant voices, migrant stories, not viewing them as numbers, because, yeah, with the numbers, it's often then articulated as a frenzy or a free-for-all, if not an invasion, a crisis, and it is a crisis, but a humanitarian one, right? The crisis is not that people are coming, it's the crisis that people are cold and without food and are being neglected. I wish Vicente was here so we could talk about the National Guard in Mexico and those young men and their indoctrination and propaganda in the press in Tijuana. Will definitely, it'll continue to be a conversation, so I'm sure, I hope there'll be an opportunity for that. This last year, a lot has changed. We were here last May. It was just was that the cleaning up of the OEDs at that point?
I think so. Yeah, I think we just finished cleaning them up, and we thought it all finished.
And then there was the summer, and we didn't really see anything, and then September, and it's just been kind of there's been waves, but I would say a consistent presence ever since. Yeah, there's so much I want to ask in that regard about this last year and the shifting landscape. Well, okay, so a lot of folks, I feel like they're tired of hearing about it, but they're going to continue to hear about it because it's November. And a lot of people think that the border and migration doesn't have anything to do with them. Like, they don't exercise compassion because it's like, well, what about our our veterans or whatever. But what is at stake when we talk about the border and we talk about militarization and we talk about surveillance, especially as we approach November? What is at stake for all of us?
Yeah, I mean, if your concern is veterans, you should consider why we're deporting our veterans. If you just want to concern yourself with that area, ask yourself that question. But more broadly, what is at stake is every single infringement on your rights and liberties that we've seen over the past decades began at the border, right? When we look at surveillance, it starts here. If you went to a protest in 2020, you were surveilled by technology that started out at the border for, right, things, drones, right? There were Border Patrol drones over Minneapolis in 2020. If you live within 100 miles, you're within this border enforcement zone, and many of your civil rights are curtailed within that zone, right? But it's not just that. Like, my academic background is looking at the 1930s, right? This othering and this demonizing and this normalizing of really terrible cruelty to other human beings is a thing that fascism did. I'm not necessarily saying that I think Joe Biden is a fascist. I'm saying that this thing that is being done by his government is a thing that fascist governments did. And when we allow ourselves to have within our nation humans without rights, that isn't a good sign for democracy. It's not a good sign for you or me. And at some point, there's going to be someone or something that you care about that's impacted by this surveillance, that's impacted by the fact that some people have fewer rights than others. And then you're going to realize that this has crept so far that you can't stop it now, because you didn't stop it in 2016, you didn't stop it in 2018, you didn't stop it in 2023, you didn't stop it in 2024, right? It's, all of us stand to lose something when we can have our phones stingrayed without a warrant, right? Or when our right to peaceably assemble, as we're seeing right now, right, is curtailed. We all stand to lose something when you can be a person in this country and be detained by the government without food, water, shelter, or any of the things that are necessary for human life. And if you can't see that because you've so backed yourself into a corner that you see migrants as so distinct from yourself, ask yourself why. And ask yourself, if you took yourself into another place in history and you had decided that you were a different kind of human and you had rights and other people didn't, ask yourself how that went at the times, and if you really want to be part of that again.
Thank you. James, what do you have to say?
It's hard talking after James because he always hits all the.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
gotta
you know what?
switch it-
I
we
have
switch-
been doing the in-person preference. I
switch it
apologize.
around. Yeah.
Next time maybe you're going
that's
first.
and that's fine because it also sometimes gives me stuff to talk about. But you see democracy dwindle as late stage capitalism grows even stronger, and yeah, it's tough because a lot of rights and civil liberties that we're all supposed to be, granted and reserved for us, and we see that is disappearing slowly, and it may start on a case-by-case basis, but I mean that's how you build for the future, and it's tough. The surveillance it does start at the border, and we've known that from before, just all the technology that starts sprouting out there, and then that technology will later get sold to different municipalities, and under that you can always say, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then why worry? And that's the age old BS line. And so you shouldn't be that heavily watched, and you may not do anything that's wrong, but then all of a sudden, it is. And that's what we're seeing more and more, is that people are doing what is, right and what is their right to do, especially with the colleges and the universities right now. And now that's being demonized and that's being criminalized. So, yeah, like I said, it's hard to talk after James because he always,
No, absolutely. I mean, thank you for
that-
bringing the universities.
That's where things are going in America, and it's scary. And as someone who has been pretty heavily surveilled by the government, it's not an easy feeling. It's really not, and that's not one thing that once you're aware of it, that really messes with your head. And maybe we'll all just get numb to it one day, but it's not right.
That was my next question, actually. Or did you have something you wanted to say in response? Or?
No, I think
Oh,
that's
okay,
correct.
sorry. I was asking, so, the First Amendment, freedom of the press. So as we're seeing all of these civil liberties eroded, including that of the freedom of the press, I wanted to ask about your experiences with repression and censorship and surveillance by the government as activists, as journalists. Yeah, I would like to just hear more about those experiences. And I'll start with James Cordero.
So as far as surveillance goes and everything like that, there wasn't a point in time that the government didn't let me know that they were watching me in person. And that's between going out to the desert, that's having undercover agents, across the street from where I live, being followed just driving around town. And this isn't like a paranoid thing, because after a while you get to, spot and you get to know. And then once you start, taking down information of who is watching you, and you can, kind of cross-reference that, you see. And that's something that started for me personally back at the end of 2018, when I think it was something like 50 of us, between like journalists, photographers, lawyers, activists, humanitarians, when we all were put on this secret government list. And I knew right off the top something was wrong. And people had told me that, oh, you're being paranoid, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Like, it just, the government overreach was just like kind of wild. And so I talked to the bigger press about it, and got in the newspaper and everything like that. And a few months later, there was like a whistleblower inside DHS that,
Wow.
snuck out information about all this stuff. And that's how we all learned about it and confirmed. But, when you're getting interrogated and you're being shown pictures of yourselves, like from a distance, communicating with people, and being asked like, hey, like, do you know this person? Do you know that person? And no matter the answer you give, they have evidence, because they are, so wild and so heavily surveilling a lot of people. And I'm not too familiar on the technology side, but it could be just like one click of the button and then everything pops up. So I'm just losing my train of thought a little bit, but yeah,
No, that's
it's a
astounding.
wild. Yeah, it's wild. And I've been almost run off the road before. It's crazy things that you don't want to, you do what you feel is right and
Right.
what you believe. And that's what I did. And it's something that you got to deal with. And I tell people, like, you never want that, but if it's standing up for yourself and standing up for others, it's one of those things that you have to wear. And it's tough.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I think people often only perceive press, freedom being limited in the other countries over there, in TJ or other places, and really don't think, well, the United States government has never done anything like that. Okay, sure. Anyways, James, what's been your experience with repression or censorship or encountering or surveillance?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes under, like, not self-censorship, but the things that the Overton window, right? We talk about the window of admissible political discourse has moved a long way right in this country. And some of it is censorship that's imposed by editors, right? You can't say X. You can't say Y. You can't say X without a comment from Border Patrol. Border Patrol won't give you a comment. Well, now you can't say it, right? So now you don't do the story. Well, now people don't know this is happening, and so they don't care, right? If you write a couple of pieces that are less than complimentary about DHS, then they won't give me comment anymore. They used to give me comment, now they won't, right? That means that, like, some places which are committed to this both side thing, well, you got to get a comment from them first, or so then you can't write that thing, right? So they can effectively shut that piece down.
Wow.
And then if you just look at the issue I've had recently with I can't get a press pass in San Diego, right? I work primarily in audio, which was recently removed from the categories that are admissible for a press pass. I've had press passes from governments all over the world, right? Like, I have been able to work as a journalist and enjoy the protections granted to a journalist in Syria, in Iraqi Kurdistan, in all kinds of places in Asia, places in Africa, but not here in this town where I live, right, with a supposedly democratic mayor and city council. Like, this, I'm very fortunate to work for a network that doesn't really give a shit, and I can still continue doing my job just fine, but it still makes it harder. It makes it harder. All these little things that add to the resistance to doing your job, right? That they make it harder, and I'm sure that's the goal. But like James said, it's important, so we're going to keep doing it.
Something that comes to mind when you're saying all that, I'm thinking about on social media how if someone's talking about genocide or violence or important things, they have to spell it all sorts of ways to try not to get the algorithm to censor them, or they have to. There's a lot of repression or censorship that comes from social media. That just came to mind as I heard you talking. How has social media impacted, shifted, and changed over the last year or years, and how has that played a role in how you do your work? Yeah.
Me?
Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. I mean, social media's changed a lot, right? Now, Twitter was always like the hell site, but it's just people saying slurs now. And so, like, reporting about migration, I don't know, it can be emotionally challenging. Like, you've spoken to this person, they've had a very difficult time, you've tried to share their story, and there's someone dropping racist slurs in the replies. That's emotionally challenging. It's also just more of a mess than it was. Like, it's just hard to get the traffic to punch through, especially again on like Twitter's the one we use mostly for news reporting, right? It can be very hard to punch through now that you have to pay to promote your work. But then social media also has this interesting consequence of like, it does to a degree bring us together. I follow TikTok influencers in Chad who are explaining the migration process to people, right? And then those people are coming and they follow the same TikTok influencer, right?
Yeah.
Or like people, a lot of Mauritanians come, right? And I've been trying to find out because almost certainly they're getting the information from somewhere, right? It's probably on social media. So in that sense, it gives me an insight into the information world of the people coming here. And that lets me see, okay, what do they know? What don't they know? What do they expect? What is shocking for them? And then that helps me as a journalist meet them where they are, right? Because there can be times when they maybe have encountered a Border Patrol agent, but that agent hasn't spoken to them, really. They haven't been briefed with information when they're in OADs, and they don't know what's going on, right? Like there was a guy just yesterday, and I was trying to interview him, and he was like, are we in trouble? Are they going to send us back right now? Like, we want to do the legal process. What? No one's talking to us, So knowing the information worlds they have through social media helps me to kind of meet them where they are as a journalist and as a person who's out there just to help them.
Yeah. Thank you. What role does social media play in your work, James?
Personally, I don't use it too much just for the fact that, as you mentioned, the algorithms get kind of messed up. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times the stories and the things that we see along the border, I'll put up through Border Kindness's social media and relating it to our work that we do out there. And I mean, the following's, over, 10 times greater than my personal one. So it's a pretty good way to follow information. But I mean, you'll post some really good information, put up some really good images, really try to grab the attention of people. But if you've just posted about, Palestine or about anything that these social media platforms deem as too controversial or how to slow the traffic down, then there is a direct effect on that, and that it's frustrating to try to get that information, the real information as you see it, because these platforms have already silenced you. And I can say that probably takes, up to 75% of, if not more, sometimes, off the attention off the count. And it's hard to figure out exactly which thing it was, because sometimes, post X and XY, and then when you come to do your post, it hits, and then you post something else, and then it just misses. So it's tough to navigate through that, but we just keep doing what we're trying to do, and hopefully, through these, regular posts and these regular information, that people will want to, kind of turn to this account that we have as information and as a source to learn what's real. And in this day and age, it is tough for accounts to have people actually like seek out where everyone's just comfortable just scrolling, what is put in front of you. And that's when, we start seeing like a lot of the, because you like this, they recommend this, and because this and that. So, a lot of the information kind of gets buried, and we just hope that through regular, storytelling and sharing, that will be an account that people can, search and look up and want to see what the latest is.
Thank you. Xavier, may I ask how much time we have? That's something a moderator should know, but I don't know that, so I apologize. 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. I was like, what? It's been a pleasure. Just checking, because I know we started a bit late as well. I'm thinking about how various protests in college campuses, protests ever since October, especially here in San Diego, we've heard from Palestine to Mexico, all the walls have got to go. And we've seen increased discourse on the connections between the genocide in Gaza and the ongoing oppression of people, or the violence of borders. And I'm wondering, and we've also seen like the huge amount of journalists that have died in Gaza, have been killed in Gaza. It's more of an observation than anything. I'm wondering, a lot of things. It seems so broad. I'm wondering about the connections. It's like, but I don't know how to condense it down here. It just came up. I'm joking. Help.
You're crushing it. I can talk about the connections. I'm happy to. The connections, we can start from the very concrete ones, right? The Israeli companies, Elbit, right, who make the surveillance technology that is on our border, pioneered that technology by spying on Palestinian people in Gaza, right, and in the West Bank. We can then draw out these broader connections, right? This othering, this idea that there are two types of humans, and some have rights, and some, we can see that every day in Gaza, right? We can also see the tools of state repression being turned on citizens whose narratives are not convenient to the state. We see that in Israel, right? That people are getting water cannon tonight in Israel, right? Students are getting beaten up at some point on some campus in this country right now, I would imagine, right? But we can also, at the time that the October 7th attack happened, I was in Syria. And I was next to another border wall, right? The one between Turkey and Syria, a border wall which is also enforced through violence, right? Every night I was there were bombs from drones, from F-16s. Every morning I woke up, someone else was mourning their brother, sister, mother, father, son, daughter, right? Every day there were funerals in the towns where I was. And so these problems are not unique to us. They're not unique to Gaza. They're not unique to Turkey and Rojava. They're the problems that states create, right? The state, as the entity that has a monopoly on legitimate violence in a given area, has to define boundaries, and it has to use it. That is how every rule the state makes is ultimately enforced by violence, right? And we see that violence most openly at the borders, but it exists inside the states too. And when we have a world system where that state power appears to be more nakedly used as violence than we have seen in a long time, right? It's been somatized and sort of hidden in other things, partially maybe because of social media we see it more, but we're seeing increased state violence, and sometimes states attempt to cohere their populations through violence. I think that's what we're seeing in Israel, right? It's us or them, so you better be with us. And sometimes they use that violence to scare their populations. But I think we can see connections between all these struggles, and we should, because the only way out of them is together, right? The entities that are doing this, that are killing people in Gaza, that are killing people here at the border, that are killing people in Rojava, they're killing people all over the world, right, are very powerful, but not as powerful as all of the people who are subjected to that violence. And so I think there's a lot of power in joining our struggles together. And we've seen that here, right? When just in terms of experience and activism, which is a small area, but like a lot of people, this cause of stopping the genocide in Gaza is their first time in the streets, and that's great. And there's a lot of people who this is 50 years of this shit, right? And that's great too. We can all learn from one another. But like, I've learned things from my time in Syria, in Iraq, in Africa, which have helped me to be better at helping people in the OADs, right? Like, just to think of a small example, like when people were around Ramadan, it's traditional to break your fast with dates, right? That's the example of the Prophet. So we got a ton of dates. We took the dates out, and people really appreciated that. And we made that day a little bit less shit. Or like Nowruz, which is a Kurdish New Year, we build a fire, because that's what people do for Kurdish New Year. Like,
a little more human, too.
Yeah, and connecting together as humans is how we solve all of these problems. So, like, I think the connections are, like, they happen on many levels, but the solutions are all the same, I guess.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. James, what human elements in those struggles, or specifically the struggle in Palestine and Gaza, what human themes or elements or moments are you also witnessing in your work on the border?
It's just that when the system, the state, the government, when they view someone on the opposite side of the border as subhuman, that's when there's going to be this type of issue and this type of violence. And unfortunately, I'm not quite as world traveled as James is, because I've had travel restrictions for about the last 5 years from the government, from doing work along the border. So I can't connect quite as much in different areas when it comes to borders, but I know that the ground rule is that when the system sees someone on the other side of the fence as subhuman, violence is going to happen, and indirect violence, direct violence, as we're seeing direct violence in Gaza, and we're seeing, for the most part, indirect violence when it comes to the U.S.-Mexico border, and the system has to be shut down.
Right. Long, slow, protracted violence on our side, right? Thank you. Thank you very much. That's a really valuable perspective. So as we talk about it, it sounds very dark, doomy, gloomy. It is. Also wondering about what hope is there? What hope is there to be had in doing what you do? What hope is there in being a journalist? Why do it? What is the transformative potential that you have an inkling might be the case? Like what could be true about being an activist that you hold on to, or a journalist?
So maybe I'll tell two stories. The one that gave me hope, that like there are so many moments that we have at the border which are actually some of the happiest memories I have, right? Like, even though things are bad, seeing that humanity gives me so, like, the other day I was out with my friends, we were driving down Marin Valley Road, we talked to some Mauritanian guys, right? And I was speaking to them in French. And then they said to me, "Hey, dude, like, it's nice that you're here. Thank you for this bottle of water. There's a Chinese guy who's broken his leg. He's back down there." So I was like, okay, I'm going to go down there, see if I can find this Chinese guy, see what's going on, call Border Patrol for him, get him rescued. And we head down there, see another group, same thing, right? "Thank you for this water. There's a guy down there who needs your help more than we do." Off we go, come back, and we come around the corner, and there's two Mauritanian guys carrying a Chinese man who has like a external brace on his leg, some kind of fixing device. And they said they'd been going for 2 days. And like, these people their phones had run out of battery, so they couldn't even Google Translate to one another, right? But like, those people shared nothing. It would have been so easy for them to leave that person who may well have died, right? People have died in that area before. But they didn't. They decided that, like, even in a time which was difficult for them, they were going to help someone else. And that gives me a lot of hope. And then, like, just occasionally, I will meet someone who will say, "I read your thing, I heard your thing, and here I am, like, and I'm helping now. How can I help?" Or someone will reach out and say, "I heard your thing, I want to help. What can I do?" And we have so many skills that we need, right? You don't have to be here concretely on the ground. There are things you can do on the internet with your computer to help. But people who have reached out and been moved enough, not just to like click a like button or make a comment, but to be like I have some time, and I'd like to give it.
Yeah.
Because I want to be in solidarity with these people who the state is harming. That gives me so much hope. Like, for a year, more than 50,000 people have come through OADs. And without a single penny of government money, we've fed them, we've given them water, we've kept them warm, we've taken care of them. And thousands of people have come through the desert. And because people like James are willing to give so much of their time and energy to drop water, so many people have been able to make that journey safely who wouldn't be able to otherwise. And that gives me masses of hope.
Yeah, same. Thank you for sharing that. James, what hope do you have in what you do? What hope is there to be had in journalism and activism in this work?
You know, it's kind of tough to have hope in these types of situations when you're down on the ground. And you plug away and you focus on the people you're helping. You start with that. And if you inspire people, if you give people hope, that's wonderful. And it's always great to hear. But, you know, I would say if you want to come and help, don't be that person who does that to try to get that to happen. You know, center the people. And if you do that, then, you know, you'll attract people that like what you do or get inspired by it. And it does, you know, kind of feel good, like when you're helping people, so that's why you do it. But like, for lack of better words, it's like it really makes things like worth it when you hear these stories from other people. When James mentioned earlier in the panel about the like September, there was like freezing temperatures and there was like EMS calls, you know, like every hour, and it was just a shit show of a situation out there. I gave just about every article of clothing that I brought along. I was left in a shirt and pants, and it's, you know, freezing temperature. I get a message from someone that I had connected with out there, and he had made it through detention, everything like that, got, you know, released into the United States. He's with his family on the East Coast, and he sends a message and he says, like, hey, if you guys weren't there, I don't think a lot of us would have survived.
Wow.
And so like, that gives you like that extra like boost that like, okay, I'm gonna work harder now. I'm gonna do even more, like, you know, to help more people. And, you know, I got an email recently about someone that, you know, watches our work and was going through cancer, and the hope they had so they can one day maybe join us and help out people got them through, and they're in remission now. So it's stuff like that it's kind of tough on a personal level to hear sometimes, like when you inspire people or give them hope, because you're just out there just trying to do good work and help people that are right in front of you. But it's seeing little glimpses of that, you know, gives me personal, you know, hope, and, you know, maybe a little bit of, you know, audacity to feel like, you know, maybe people are gonna, you know, kind of turn the corner. Some people are gonna turn the corner on this and see people for who they are, and, you know, just try to provide some kindness along the border. And it starts there, and being kind to, you know, your neighbor, being kind to a stranger, and that's just what people that we're meeting on the border are. They're just strangers. They're just people we don't know. Just because they come from somewhere else means, you know, doesn't mean that they're different. You know, that they don't deserve the same, you know, opportunities and the same rights and the same life. And, you know, hopefully things can change. But regardless if it doesn't or not, they go out there, we respond, and we do whatever we can until it's no longer needed.
Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty much all any of us can do, right? Is try our best with what's right in front of us and catch those glimpses of hope and light when we can. So thank you both for coming. Thank you for rolling with the punches with all the changes today. We have John Jolly in the cut, spin some tracks for us. Up next, we are going to talk to Tomas about redesigning border beacons. So quite related. Catch you soon. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
James.
Yeah, thanks, James.
See you, bud.
Yeah, you were crushing it. You did really well. Those are really thoughtful words.
Thank you. I was like, so thank you. I appreciate that. You're very gracious. We can just
radio and television sets turned on. This is an emergency. I repeat, this is an emergency.
chemical warfare comprised of phosphorus organic chemicals known as organophosphates. Weapons of chemical warfare comprised of phosphorus organic chemicals known as organophosphates. Weapons of chemical warfare comprised of phosphorus organic chemicals known as organophosphates.
Hi everyone, I'm Mia. Welcome back. Thank you, John Jolly, for that. That was sick. I have to ask you about some tracks later for sure. I had Shazam pulled up, and then Xavier was like, "Okay, we're live." I'm like, "All right, never mind." I'm here with Tomas Perez, and I'm excited to hear about some of the work you're doing, specifically about redesigning Border Beacons, which is a Tijuana, San Diego World Design Capital project. Tell us all about it, how it came about, what is the intent, the goal of it. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Tomas Sebastian Perez. I am a second-year Masters of Architecture student here in San Diego at the New School of Architecture and Design. And the Redesigning Border Rescue Beacons project is a World Design Capital San Diego Tijuana 2024 impact project. And the way it kind of came about was I was going to architecture school and I had heard about the World Design Capital designation for San Diego Tijuana for this year, and I wanted to propose a project that could potentially be picked up by that endorsement, and I had reached out to a couple classmates just to get a team that was interested in, potentially submitting a project, the World Design Capital had some open submissions for, like an open call for projects to be endorsed. And so we were like brainstorming ideas, and this idea of the redesigning of the border rescue beacon came out because for the last like 6-7 years or so, before I was an architecture student, I was working in like the human rights grassroots NGO kind of field, and I was very familiar with like border militarization policies, infrastructure, and the rescue beacons were actually something that kind of came about through that work, through one of the organizations I worked for, the Southern Border Communities Coalition. They had actually helped to pass the law that actually funded the implementation of the rescue beacons. And so I had known about those beacons, and I was like, well, you know, these beacons exist currently, and the way that they look and the way that they're designed look very similar to other surveillance infrastructure that's out in the border.
Sorry, I forgot to ask, what are border beacons
Yeah,
as well? I mean, just to backtrack just a little bit. So you're familiar with these border beacons. What purpose do they serve out there? What are they?
Yeah. So currently there are these beacons that exist in the border region, essentially these towers that they all use like strobe lights or some way of being seen from a far distance. So the intent is that these beacons are there for migrants or anyone who would find themselves in distress in the border to be able to go up to one, to press a button, and to call for help if they find themselves, you know, in a situation where they would otherwise, where they would otherwise be dying of dehydration or exposure. And as you can see, these kind of towers, they look very similar to like a call box you might see on the side of the freeway, or
Reminds me of those parking lot cops
Yeah.
at like Walmart, where they're like, this area is under surveillance, and it's like flashing, and it reminds you, and like, don't steal or else.
right.
Yeah.
It's essentially that same piece of technology, but put in the desert.
Wow.
And so the project about redesigning these beacons was essentially a question that we wanted to pose about how can design be an agent of humanitarian aid, or an agent of actually being able to change, you know, through design. How can we actually improve the effectiveness of the beacon to save lives, since
Yeah.
it looks very similar to a lot of the surveillance infrastructure that exists. And if I was a migrant and I saw that rescue beacon, I might confuse it with, you know, another.
Might I hide from it? Yeah. Would
Yeah.
I know to go up there and signal for help, right? What languages are on the, like, are they only in English? Are they in Spanish? Or how does one know to signal for help?
Yeah, so currently there's beacons in a lot of the Border Patrol sectors across the whole southern border, and they're not uniform, so they're not standardized. So that's kind of one thing that we see is, like, you know, a rescue beacon, even within the same sector, within the San Diego sector, there's varying types of beacons. There's beacons that are portable, there's beacons that are not, and they're fixed, and they don't share like even the same signage. So there's a lot of like things like that, where even if there was just maybe a standard signage that was included on all of them, that would help people to identify what they are.
Right, because there are universal symbols for things like medical aid and whatnot, right? So if that could be implemented in that way, that would be really, really helpful. Right, and maybe make them look less like surveillance infrastructure. What human elements would one want to add, or what vision is there for that?
Yeah, so right now we're actually starting the design phase of the project. We had a few workshops and events in both in San Diego and in Tijuana back in April and early May to essentially ask the community, ask design professionals, students, human rights organizations, migrant advocates, and border policy experts, and any interested government officials what they saw as opportunities for the design and what they saw currently existing with the current designs, some design flaws or potential that, areas could be addressed. And we wanted to get those communities' input, and then from that, be able to take that input, gather some more data and research to inform the design. And yeah, so there's some stuff like, basic standardized signage, universal symbols that might be, able to communicate more effectively, just from an initial glance. Oh, that's actually meant for me to be able to use.
Yeah, you described a diverse array of individuals that were invited to participate in these community forums. Are there common goals or desires that were expressed that you see, some themes that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we know that the way that the rescue beacons, the way that they're currently deployed right now, there's a few problems in terms of the way that they maybe don't fully inform the user as to what might happen. Some beacons say, if you need water, press this button and someone will come with water. But they don't specifically say the Border Patrol will be coming to detain you. And so there's a consideration of how do we implement some form of consent through the design of the beacon, so that way people are informed about what it is, because this might be their last resort, right? So that's something that is very much at the forefront of our consideration, because we know we don't want our design to just go back into the infrastructure of surveillance and violence, right?
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge concern. And probably a very tricky line, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Can I turn my mic off?
Or maybe it died.
Really? Oh, it says one flashing. Just one, test. Check. Check one, check two. Tech's been our friend today, by the way.
We can share this one.
Yeah. Oh. That's how it always goes. Yeah, you don't want to be a part of the violence and policing and of the border and border enforcement. That must be such a tricky line, though, because eventually you will have to, or I believe you are currently engaging some level with government officials. And so it must be really hard to try to figure out at what point are we being complicit or like within this infrastructure of violence, and what point are we offering aid? That must be really hard. From that, or based on that, or with that, what challenges have you encountered so far, or do you foresee encountering in the future as you continue with this work?
Yeah, so currently we haven't had the chance to sit down formally with any government officials to talk about the potential of this project, and we're right now still kind of gathering the support of the community organizations, the human rights organizations, and we have a sign-on letter. I think it's, if you go to our Instagram at Redesigning Border Rescue Beacons.
I think it's on the presentation if you want to.
And then you can click the link in our bio, and if like you're a human rights organization or a border policy expert or an institution that wants to support us, you can sign our sign-on letter. And we have that there so that way when we do approach the government and we can share with them, like, look, these are all the institutions and collaborators who support us. We want to invite you as, the government to be a collaborator with us in this project to, see where we can take this. That's essentially going to be the big hurdle that we see.
They might just be like, nah.
Right, they could just say no, and that's okay. Like, for us, myself and the two other students who are part of this project, Andrea Montejano and Carla Suarez, for us, this was just like an opportunity that we're just grateful to be a part of in even asking this question and having this platform and community process to be included. And we are going to try to take it as far as we can.
That's good, yeah.
And even if it's, not the San Diego sector that might want to collaborate, perhaps in the future, another Border Patrol sector that might be more open to improving their rescue beacon program might take a learning from the work that we did, or somewhere, and somewhere down the line.
Right, down the line, you never know, absolutely. Thank you. And right, it's so important to have these conversations, right? When we talk about border beacons, and of course we have to ask, well, a beacon when you're facing what? And then we have to talk about migrant deaths in the desert. We have to talk about the exposure and hunger and the conditions that give rise to that, and that we know are correlated with increased migrant deaths, political, physical, geographical, all of that. So I think it's super important to have that conversation, regardless if there's a direct outcome, so to speak, that we can see now or in the near future. So thank you for that, especially as a student, right? I mean, it can be so easy to be like, I got things to do. So I really appreciate the work that you and your collaborators have been doing on investing your time and so much energy in doing this work. So you described, my question was, what are the next steps for the Redesigning Borderland Beacons project? And described them quite thoroughly. What humanitarian message, or what human message do you hope to send in those beacons? How would you communicate that in the design of these beacons?
Right, yeah. That's the design challenge.
Yeah, there it is, right?
That's the design challenge, is just from a design standpoint, what inherently kind of communicates humanity.
And welcome.
And welcome, right? Or humanitarian aid. What inherently looks like at a human scale, like, because some of these beacons are like very tall and in an effort to be visible, but when you walk up to it, it might be super imposing. And if it feels cold, if it doesn't feel like to be interacted with, then a migrant or someone else might avoid it.
Yeah, I'm gonna break it. It's gonna break me.
So these are the things that we're, as designers, looking at to see, well, is there a way we can bring some element that is at a human scale, or some element that does look inviting, or that is perhaps eluding to be interacted with just from its design.
Wow. And there's so much there, right, about cultural symbolism and how we interact with objects and shapes and space. So much education in that in itself, right? Thank you. I would like to open it up to anybody. I didn't tell you this, by the way, so surprise. Does anyone have a question from the audience anywhere about this, or a comment, perhaps? Pray tell. And then the AC coming off, so it's all quiet. Yeah.
What are some of your designs? How are you thinking of making it more human?
There's a slide. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So the question was, because we're mic'd up, what are some of the designs? What are some of the ideas for making it more human? And so there's some ideas over here.
Yeah, these were our initial concepts that we had submitted to the World Design Capital last year. And the three on the left, were our initial takes as individuals, myself, Carla, and Andrea, the three students as part of this project. And we chose to not try to influence each other's idea. So we initially took an initial stab at,
these are three distinct student works.
Yeah, these are three distinct student works. And we took each initial take, and I'll talk about a few things And these were just conceptual.
Right, because my understanding is that it's very conceptual at this point because you wanted to gain that community feedback, right? Without saying, this is what we have for the community, what do you think? But really
Right.
have that at the grassroots. But, okay, so yes, please let us.
Yeah. So with this design that's on the left, that was Andrea's design, and something that she really focused on was creating this base at the bottom that could be used for potential storage if we wanted to include something that could store water or emergency supplies or things of that nature, or it could also be used as a resting place, a place for people to rest from the hot sun. Or she also included like a virgen, and like as if it could be used as an altar for migrants who had passed away, so people could go to this place and leave things in remembrance and honor of migrants who have died. And the intent of having that base be used by people is to be able to, if someone were to come across it and see, oh, this is a place where people have left things, where people are remembered, and I see that, then it's a way of connecting to someone's humanity.
Yeah, religion and just that deep, profound hope that we have, or mourning and memory of our loved ones is a machine, a cold calculating piece of surveillance technology won't communicate that, but these mementos and photos and religious items, yeah, speak very clearly to that.
Yeah, and so if I was a migrant and I saw that, it would give me a little bit of sense of hope.
Right.
That someone is there to help me, you know.
Yeah.
And the design in the middle, this was a design that I had, and the drawing doesn't really do it justice, but the idea was that the element of the top where the light would be, you could have sort of like a spotlight that kind of shoots into the sky that extends the height of the beacon, so that way even if you were on the other side of that hill and you wouldn't be able to see the actual physical beacon, you would still see the light and know that there's something just beyond where I'm at, and that in itself like draws someone and leads you, guides you, and that you can have some sense of hope that there is something there that is calling to you.
Without being so imposing as well.
Right, without being so imposing as well. And then the last design was designed by Carla, and this was a design that has these two kind of spires, and it was symbolic to represent San Diego and Tijuana. Yeah,
Very cool.
yeah. So it was an intent to do that, and essentially with each of these three conceptual designs, we wanted to communicate in some way our humanity.
Yeah.
Like, how do we express humanity through a design, and how do we express hope through a design? And
Wow.
and that's a study of like just, if we were a migrant and we wanted to connect to it in some way, what would we connect with?
Yeah, the spires, yeah. I mean, it also communicates intimacy and closeness, right? It's these two things that are close together. That's a very compelling design too, and a really compelling problem, right? And how like the little things, right? Like the height of the beacon or how many spires there are can have like the biggest impact in their reception. That is really exciting. And then in another slide, I'd seen like there were some more practical suggestions about cell phone chargers and emergency kits with life-saving items, a sun shading element, a satellite phone, stuff like that.
Yeah, these were a lot of suggestions that we've been receiving from a lot of the migrant advocacy groups as to what some of the features that they would like to see, what migrants would like to see included in potential redesign of these beacons. Because currently the way that the beacon works is the beacons are all self-powered, so there's typically like a generator or like solar panels, and then there's a call button, and there's like a strobe light or something that the beacon utilizes to be seen.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the only thing that all the beacons share. Some of them are portable, some of them have other features, such as like cameras, motion sensors.
License plate readers.
Yeah, like a variety of other surveillance infrastructure that's also kind of embedded in them. And so as a suggestion, a lot of these were, suggested items that migrants could utilize, not just using the call button, but utilize some of these other features potentially. Going back to your earlier question about some challenges that we do foresee, if we know that there's probably that fine line that we have to walk, because as amazing it would be to include, all of these things, we know that the pushback is going to come from the Border Patrol or the government as to, well, if you include all of these things in a beacon, the argument would be like you're essentially aiding
And abetting. That's what they love to say. Aiding and abetting.
aiding the migrants in or creating a situation where you're going to draw more migrants to a specific area.
Right, or that you're helping the cartel or something, or
Yeah.
something absolutely ridiculous, but they will still stand behind it with a straight face, which is
Yeah, so
astounding.
it's
But
it's a fine line, because you want, and I'm sure the Border Patrol, since it's their program, they would want this program to succeed, but not too well.
but not too much.
Because so it's an interesting balance that we're going to have to figure out, and we're hopeful that we can figure out a way to perhaps provide another benefit to the beacons that currently doesn't exist, with maybe
absolutely.
one of these potential additions.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's such a thing with migration generally, right? In this country, is that they want it to work because they want cheap labor, they want people that pay taxes but that don't get benefits, but not too well, right? And so it's such a hard machine to work inside of. And so I admire your tenacity, hope, and persistence in this. And so, any more questions for Tomas? Well, we went over that. Sorry, no, my bad. No, I'm just kidding. What's the next step? The next step. What is the next step? Sorry.
Yeah. I guess right now we're going through the design phase, and we're currently still looking for funding sources for our project. And depending on that, the project can go in a couple ways. If our project is funded, because currently right now we're not funded. We're just by donations, like small donations from like the people who know us. We've been able to hold like workshops and whatnot. But our goal to take it to the project to its full potential would be to design a beacon, to actually build a real life scale prototype, and then deploy that prototype into the desert and field test it. So that way we can gather data on our own beacon and then share that data with the public, with the government, and say, here's how our design perhaps performed better than the current design, and maybe here's some lessons that you all can take. Please take it and improve the current design and implement something. That would be the ideal. But either way, we're going to still design it, with
Awesome.
throughout the whole thing. But it's just about if we can build one and test it or not.
Thank you. How can we follow that journey?
Yeah. So you can check us out on Instagram at Redesigning Border Rescue Beacons. And and our email is redesigningborderbeacons@gmail.com. And you can see like some of the initial concepts earlier. We have some updated renderings of those initial concepts that are on our Instagram as well. And yeah, please reach out if you're interested in collaborating with us or offering any suggestions. This project is going to take the rest of the year, essentially, during this year, during the World Design Capital. And hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have a design that improves upon the current existing beacons, and we'll share that out.
That's really exciting. Yeah.
Sí. Gracias. Okay.
La finalidad y
Ok, sí. Sí, nuestro proyecto, si quieres apoyar nuestro proyecto, podemos encontrarnos en Instagram, Redesigning Border Rescue Beacons. Y pues el proceso de nuestro proyecto hasta el fin de este año es de rediseñar baliza de rescate, proponer un diseño que tiene avances en el diseño como a ver como una cosa de humanidad no tan como infraestructura de vigilancia o como tan militarizado. Y después de este verano creemos que vamos a tener un diseño para compartir con el público, con el gobierno y decir, aquí son las cosas que ya nos identificamos que son problemas y soluciones sobre el diseño. Y que podemos compartir esos diseños con el gobierno, ellos pueden usarlos. Ajá.
Gracias. No, gracias por su facultad. Más o menos, sí, más.
Ajá, sí. Sí. El propósito es cómo el diseño puede salvar vidas de los migrantes, sí. Ya.
Muchas gracias. So the question was, what are the more important needs, like the most basic needs that are needed?
I'll answer in English and then in Spanish. So I guess the kind of basic needs is that we want to make sure that the rescue beacons are functioning. We've heard from reports from migrant advocacy groups that go into the desert that interact with these beacons that they aren't fully functional sometimes. So we want to make sure that first the public even knows that these beacons exist, because not a lot of people know, and then that they work. And I guess with our design is we want to ensure that if we're going to be proposing a new design, that it actually will work and survive out in the desert. Para nuestro proyecto, la prioridad es que primero que esas balizas sirve, que funcionario están en funcionario, y que nuestro diseño también puede funcionar y puede estar allá en el desierto, con las condiciones allá en el desierto. Y después de eso, si podemos también, como nuestro proyecto, un parte de nuestro proyecto es para educar la pública que esas balizas de rescate existen, porque la pública no sabe que esas balizas de rescate ya existen. Y eso es un otro parte de nuestro proyecto. Por ejemplo, ¿dónde se localizan? Ajá. And yeah, the other part is too, like where they're actually located.
Yeah, sí.
So in some instances, the rescue beacons are portable, and so the Border Patrol can actually move them to corridors that they know migrants are likely to use, or that they've seen,
Influx of traffic,
of traffic or of deaths, and that there's a need in a specific place. Whether or not they're actually placed most effectively is a question for the Border Patrol, and so that's something that as designers that's kind of out of the scope of our project, is like where they're placed. But even just the education that these beacons exist kind of helps to shine a light on that project or on that program, and potentially hold these agencies responsible or more accountable to their effectiveness.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah. Gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
John Jolly, could I get some more of that track, please, that I was vibing so hard to? Thank you. Take it away. Wait, ¿cómo? Arnie. And I forgot the name of drums and demonstrations, correct? Oh, got him. Got him. Coming up next, so stay tuned.
Thank you.
IO's D&D. Is it drums and demonstrations?
Don't say that you were thinking when you've never done the right thing. A broken moral compass going straight to hell. You better pray from an empty hole, the empty hole that was your soul. Do you This is a picture. Things going a little out of hand. This is a sculpture of a couple of things you gotta get straight. Sooner rather than later, genius invents a tool to show the world what it means when I'm in a bad mood. There are angels there. You know where they keep angels. Heaven, that's where. I can't wait to die. I can find me some where I'll find my wife when I'm through with my present one.
Thank you, John Jolly. Welcome back, folks. I'm here with Arnie. Remind me of your last name.
Schoenberg?
Okay, show him. Like the composer?
Yeah.
Oh, legit. Oh,
Sick.
all right. Well, I'm here with Arnie Schoenberg, and who is going to present drums and demonstrations, or facilitate. It sounds like I was unaware of that. Could you tell us more about this project?
Sure.
Perhaps what the origins of it, perhaps.
I sort of had been playing drums forever and ever, and started getting involved in, it was actually the anti-apartheid movement, which is really telling, because now we're going through the very similar situation in campuses today. But this was back in the 80s. And I just sort of had this flash of why not bring the drums to our demonstrations, and it was very welcomed, and I started from there to use it more and often, and got to find some things that worked, some patterns of what to do, what not to do, and learned the hard way. And
Trial and error.
Yeah, so I've kind of got a few things I wanted to show some folks what I've learned and possible ways of incorporating drums into demonstrations.
Could you describe your relationship with drums, sound, percussion?
Yeah, I think I've always been interested in drums. My mom lived in Venezuela for a while and got me some bongos and brought those back. And she brought a batucada record from Brazil. And as a little kid, I was always listening to drums and playing drums, and ever since elementary school. And then did percussion and band and bluegrass percussion and hand percussion and Cuban and Brazilian. And so got into all kinds of different drumming, percussion styles.
And you kind of touched on this with the anti-apartheid movement origins,
Yeah.
but what is your hope for drums in the world, and what the potential for drums?
I think, we had the earlier speaker talk about the kind of paranoia that you get from being surveilled by the government, and that sense of that overwhelming, chilling effect of what government surveillance does to you. And the antidote is joyful public expression in something like music, or other art forms or whatever. But music is a great way to have that public expression that gets you out of the circular, vicious cycle of feeling more paranoid, which gets you to do less, and then you're more into yourself. And that thing that the government does to kind of bring you down, one way to get out of that is public expression in a joyful way, and drums are one of those really easy ways to do that.
Very easy human ways, it sounds like.
Yes.
Just like
Yes.
the heartbeat, the rhythm and beat being such a core part of our humanity. Yeah.
Right.
That's really exciting. So,
Yeah.
what we got here?
Good.
What we got?
So I was going to maybe start with a little bit of a couple different sets of drums that kind of work. And one of the things that's important is to have drums that you don't mind losing. So at a demonstration, you don't want to bring your most expensive drums. You want to bring drums that you can drop and run, and the police are coming, and you're just going to drop them and leave, and that's it. So I've got the cheapest possible drums that make. You also want to have sort of a weight versus volume ratio. So you want to make as much noise as possible. You want it to be as inexpensive as possible. And there's a couple other parameters. Is you don't want them to look like weapons.
Right.
So if you have, for example, this here. So if I have this stick here, it looks like a weapon.
It does.
But if I turn it around with this nice soft little thing on the end, it looks less like a weapon.
Yeah.
So that idea of having something that doesn't look quite deadly is something
give the police an excuse
very
to brutalize
important that you want to do, and kind of not have that potential for a problem when you're interacting with police, which you should always assume any demonstration you're going to be interacting with police.
Absolutely, and that they're not going to be super stoked about it.
Yeah. And they will definitely be unstoked about the noise and the music and your joy, and they will try as much as they can to bring that down. So you have to kind of always resist the police.
That part.
So
maybe we could go station by station. Could you?
Yeah, I have sort of. This is the basic station for me. Is the cacerolazo. So that's the pots and pans, and this has a story that's, we're not sure the origins. Some people claim it started in France, of all places.
Yeah.
Then was brought to Argentina and throughout Latin America. A lot of people say, no, it started in Latin America and it was brought to France. There's debates over this, but this is our basic core drums and demonstrations routine here. It's just a stupid pot and pan, and you get a stick and hit it. So, make
Yeah.
as much noise as you can.
Get mad with it. Yeah.
That's it. That's the cacerolazo, and you make a lot of noise. You can play along with chants. You can do a few things, but the idea is just volume.
Yeah, right.
Maximal
Making it known.
volume.
We're mad,
Oh.
we're here, we're taking up space physically and auditorially, yeah.
Yes, I did want to remind people also to make my public
Yeah,
service announcement.
yeah, zoom in, like
Please,
close shot.
Wear your earplugs. Let me show you how to put
It's
earplugs on
importante.
really quick, too. So the way to put earplugs on is to first roll them, pinch them, and roll them in your fingers before putting them in. Squeeze them really tight. And then it's a little bit of a twist, kind of a twist in, kind of as you push them in. And then it will expand, and you'll get about 30 dB. Yeah. You want some?
¿Alguien más?
Yeah. You can actually wash these when they get too much earwax on them. Just throw them in the washing machine, put them in the dryer, they'll work.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's a twist, a roll, and then a kind of put in like that twist there.
Well,
Yeah.
Can we pass those out? Or
Yes,
is that-
of course. I'm gonna take mine off. I won't make too much noise for a while, so we'll get there. Okay, so that's our basic station, and I could have you all come up and do that, but there's no real sense because all you're gonna do is just bang and make noise. So there's no real need to even teach anything about cacerolazo. But one thing about sticks, here's some range of sticks. So wooden spoons, egg beaters, spatulas, whatever you want. This is maybe on the, maybe kind of don't bring to a
Yeah,
demonstration.
the weapon side.
Yeah, it's not pointy, but it looks pointy. That's
They'll be
the key.
excited to you
Right.
say that they thought it was.
Yeah. But plenty of good stuff. You just go through the kitchen. Anytime this thing is broken, that becomes a drumstick.
Yeah, break it more.
Where did I get this whole setup? Mostly thrift stores. Some from the Che Cafe dumped a bunch of their pots that I grabbed. But it's, costs about maybe $20 for all of this.
Yeah.
In terms of the metal. And, been collecting for a while, but so that's one of those things. Hang on to all your old pots and pans. You never know when you're going to be out in the streets.
Doing what you need to do, yeah.
I'm going to jump into another station, which is bucket drums. So, bucket drums here are something that you're going to play with two sticks as if it were the snare drum. There's lots of different ways to hold it. You can just hold a bucket, play it, but your hand hurts, and it's not efficient. You can't march with it really well. So, again, our qualifications for a good demonstration drum is loud, cheap, and the other thing I didn't say was mobile. So you want to be able to move with whatever drum you have.
And is that what that rope there is then to tie it?
Yes, and this is the technique that I've kind of come up with to tie it so it is the most ergonomic for when you're playing it.
Could you show the camera, the good people at home?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is tie it around here, and then it raises it up a little bit to about the height where you would have a drum stand or a snare drum. So instead of it having kind of draped over your shoulder, you've got it here. You can walk. You'll have to waddle a little bit, but it's a pretty comfortable walk. And now when I get my drumsticks out. Drumsticks. I have to pull back a little bit from what I would, and I've seen people that will take a box, a cardboard box, put that in there to extend it out a little bit. That's a nice trick. I'm usually too lazy. I just kind of do the elbows back.
Yeah.
Thing. But
Ow!
so loud, comfortable, very lightweight, very efficient.
Yeah.
So we're looking at la eficiencia del peso, el volumen, y que está portátil. Todos esos factores y barato.
Barato, sí.
Sí, es importante. So all those factors, you know, the bucket drum is great. The advantages of the bucket drum, again, cheap, readily available, you know, florists will have it, restaurants will have them, all kinds of great places to get them. There's different kinds of buckets you can use, kitty litter buckets, or metal things sometimes work. You can use the same technique. So advantages are, if you have somebody who does know how to play a 2-stick snare drum, this is great. They can really rock out with this. They'll go to town. Or even people that don't and will kind of get a good rhythm going, you can have a whole set of people playing this in a group, and it sounds really good. So really quick, I want to show you in 2 seconds just how to do this taping system. So here's your ingredients. 1 bucket, duct tape, and a string. So we're gonna do this taping thing here. This one is old, so it needs to be redone anyway. So get a little bit of duct tape here, and we'll just go around it once, just to hold it on. And here's the trick. So once you have it here around, stuck to the bucket, you wanna pull back a little bit and pinch.
Saw that pinching motion, folks?
Pinch
You pinch
here,
it.
pinch here, and then back it up a little bit. And that's your loop.
Damn.
So that's where the string goes. So you're pinching it, backing it up. Then take it a little bit, you know, about the width of your waist here, because that's going to be on the other side of your waist. And do the same thing, kind of back it up, pinch it together, and then keep going. There you go. And so those are your loops. You can keep going all the way around. You can back this up on both sides of this quick. Keep those loops from coming off. Doesn't matter if you come into the bucket. But now we have these loops that aren't going to fall off. Quick thing when you're putting this in, just in case that middle loop pulls off, you want to go. If you're going down, then go down again here. So if your middle loop pulls through, you at least have it on one loop. Then you're ready to go. Yeah. So pretty quick. Not bad, right? Okay, clap, clap, clap. So bucket brigades, these things, you take the ropes off, stack them all up, and you're ready to go.
Ready to go, ready
Yeah.
to roll. Ready
Related to buckets, I'm going to move over to the barrels really quick.
Buckets and barrels, barrels and buckets.
So the best thing with the barrels is to try to get a 50-gallon and a 30-gallon, and then you're going to have 2 different tones. And so you can kind of hear there's a low tone and a high tone.
Let's go.
And then, so again, we're looking for maximal volume, cheap, and then portable. These are less portable, unfortunately. These things need a little bit of work, but the best way to do this is to get a couple volunteers, and you have what we call a barrel team. So 2 people holding it, and then 1 person on the back playing it is the ideal way to march with these. So I'm going to just demonstrate that really quick.
Yeah,
can
do you need
it
help?
one. So you can play on the back here, okay? Can you hit
Got
it?
you, yeah.
Hit the drum? Yeah, go ahead.
Wow, yeah.
Okay, so we're mobile. Now this is where the earplugs come in handy.
Yeah.
Especially for me. But it works with that. And if you get 2 people, you can do it too. It works pretty well. And then
Probably
just-
get some handles on there.
You trade off.
Yeah.
So again, you know, make it look, don't have a big jagged blade on the end. Put something nice and soft and smooth looking that the police aren't going to complain about. Baseballs, you know, nobody thinks of a baseball as a weapon, so you need, baseballs are good. So bit harder, but you get a little more attack, a little high end on that. It's nice. So barrels and buckets go really well together. So you get maybe a couple of these barrels and a bunch of buckets. You've got an ensemble there. Where to get these barrels? Generally, car washes are the best.
Huh.
Car wash places, they buy their soap in these large barrels and then have to get rid of them afterwards. But you can sometimes find them. Trash cans sometimes will work, but generally these plastic barrels are the best. Okay, let's try just a couple of little extras.
Speaking of the police, yeah.
I'm a real fan of these sparkless water bottles, but unfortunately they're going out of style, so you have to find the old ones. There's some that are really old that are glass, which of course don't work, but the older plastic ones, if you can find them around, are really, really nice.
Boink.
The newer ones, they use a different plastic, which doesn't sound as good. But you can play them with your hand. You can hit them on the ground, which is really fun. Like, you can do all kinds of stuff. If you want, you can bounce them. You can spin them. You can do all kinds of crazy things with these. You can hit them with a stick. So these are great if you can find them with the right plastic. Is the trick.
Yeah, because I know what you're talking about. This is like a thinner plastic, right?
Yeah,
Like
this is
the
the
old.
older
Yeah,
ones.
because I have to change a lot of these at work because nobody wants to change them.
They're heavy.
Yeah,
They're heavy. Yeah.
and it's a lot thicker than the newer materials, so it's not just any old boinkable thing.
Yeah, try to get the old ones. And this is one of those things that they used to be a staple for drums and demonstrations, and now we kind of technology changes, we advance. But you never know. You know, you can add to them. This is sort of a shake array. So, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
Little ones, too.
Yay,
So-
little guys. These ones I feel like are more common.
All kinds of variations. So you just look around, you never know where
Yeah,
you're going to
right.
find drums.
Yeah, so many cathedrals where there's eyes to see them, right?
Also, don't forget your random drum set. So
Yeah.
if somebody has a drum set, cannibalize it.
Yeah.
Take it apart. Use it for a marching band. This idea that a drum set used to be maybe 10 different percussionists that played in an ensemble, but because of late capitalism, we started saying, okay, we can't afford to pay these 10 drummers. Let's just pay one drummer and have all the drums that just one drummer does.
Oh, wow.
So you could kind of reverse engineer that, take your drum set apart and split all the pieces up with a bunch of different people.
I love that.
So like cymbals are one of these. Take your hi-hats and you just have to learn how to do the square knot here. It's a cymbal knot here. It's not too bad. But then you've got this big crashy sound, which I'm not going to demonstrate.
No,
We're
I
all in
was
a
like,
small
oh,
room.
yeah.
You guys know what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Toys. Don't forget toys. There's all over the place.
Speaking of fun and expression and frivolosity, yeah.
Right?
Ooh. It's like
Yeah,
the
and then your classic bubuzuelas, right? You know? Doesn't have to be a drum. It can be any kind of noisemaker. Whatever you have that's available, cheap.
take up that space.
Yes.
Yeah. Portable, not a weapon.
Okay, let me go through one more station here.
Yeah.
And this is our frame drum.
Yeah. Let me
setup.
just scoot over here.
So these are really nice because they're lightweight, portable, and you can kind of decorate them and make them really customizable for whatever demonstration you're at. They have a nice tone. So they're not as loud as some of the other ones, but they're really pleasant.
Like deeper, you know, and like kind of like this ominous kind kind of collective sound, yeah.
They're a little warmer than some of the other drums.
And you just made it with this?
Yeah, so I'm gonna show you really quick how to make one. This one's a little bit dead. You can play with your hands, or you can play it with a stick. Kind of mute it a little bit. Get some different tones out of that.
Awesome.
So let me show you really quick how to do these. This is I'm not necessarily making an advertisement for Scotch, but I did want to put
There's
the heavy duty part there. So heavy duty, usually grab your tape roll here, and
Can I help you in any way?
no, that's
Okay,
fine.
got it.
I'll show you. This is an old IKEA thing that I took apart and used some furniture. But if you buy at Home Depot or a lumber supply place, they have this. I think it's called 1/4 inch by 2 inch, and it's maybe a long 10-foot piece is $3 or something like that. And you can make 2 drums out of that. So the wood itself is going to cost you about $1 per drum. The tape is a little more expensive. These things are about $20, $30 for the pack of tape. So that's where your expense is going to be, but it can make maybe 10, 20 drums, depending how much you use it. So that can end up being, one of these drums costs approximately $2.
So it's in the cheap category.
It's in the cheap category.
And the
$2
portable
and it kind of a
not
nice
weapon
tone.
category. Yeah.
So let me show you some tricks here for doing this. It's the same whether you do it with the small one or the big one or this kind of fat one. So I have this. First, you grab your stickers and decorate it. So
Shout out to the front.
Yeah, put your stickers on. I don't know. Maybe you can help me get
Yeah,
these
of course.
stickers open.
Yeah.
Does anyone
Is
have
it
a
too late
Sharpie?
to design for a better
Anyone have a
world?
Sharpie? You can decorate this.
I have a pencil. Anyone got a marker, Sharpie, Posca? No. Someone's calling me right now. Sorry, I'm too busy.
Okay, I can't even get
Okay,
these
got it.
stickers open. Oh, you got one? Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. At least we got one here. Okay, so you put your sticker on. There. Oh, yeah, good. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much, Hector.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, do something about something.
Yeah, right. Okay, great.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, nice.
Nice. What a guy.
So then we got a little bit, there's a couple different rounds of decoration. The first round is just on the drum on the outside itself. Then you're going to put the first layer of drum head on this. Now, this is one of these things that someone taught me how to do this, and I was like, why didn't I think of this myself? It was such a genius idea.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us.
Because they're square, you can use a square tape, and it works really well. So the trick here is kind of get it on the side here, and then you're going to pull, and you want to brace it here and stretch it and lock it down. So when you're stretching it, it's like tuning the drum head. Your tension is on the drum head now. So we're going to do it here. So it's a stretch and then a grab. And now here I'm going to kind of offset it. Start to go a little bit offset here.
Offset.
And I just stretch and then kind of grab it there. And then I could just kind of go all the way around. See if I can do this quickly.
You make it look so easy.
Yeah, I wrecked my shoulder doing too many of these.
Oh, man.
Mass production.
So it's not an advertisement for Scotch.
No. But the trick is kind of that pull and then kind of lock it in place. I didn't ruin this pedestal. Okay. Now, we got one side of the head. It's not going to sound very good yet. We have to do the other side.
How many times do you wrap it? Just twice? Or?
Twice. Yeah, twice is good. Now here's where you have, where's our pen? Do you have a pen? Okay, good. So now you can decorate this side. Because this side we're gonna cover with another head. And so here, you do the other side here too. There
Yeah, Hector.
we go. Good. That's good. No swastikas, that's great. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So this way, now we went this way. So we're gonna go across
Yeah. Okay.
and fix it.
Got that tension.
And so we'll just kind of. Pull that a little tighter. Okay. That should do it.
Voila.
Okay. Now I like to kind of just press that in, get those kind of layers all solid there. But see, the pattern now is on the inside, so it's protected. So we can hit as much as we want. It's not going to be, we're not going to lose it. So now we're ready. Trial test here. See how this sounds. So kind of nice tone, not to wait, and it's decorated with our own decorations.
How does the tone change? Like, how can you change the tape to alter it?
You can kind of push in a little bit. But over time, it's going to get dead.
Yeah, that's
So
what you had
you're
said
gonna
about
have
the
to
other
just
one.
bite the bullet and have either a very low drum like this or put more tape on it, redo it, and that's the expense. But it'll last pretty long actually. These are maybe at least 5 years old.
Yeah, I see one
So-
referring to our previous president. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty old.
that's great.
Okay,
So they last that long.
That's the main kind of trick, I think, is to get cheap, mass-producible instruments that you don't mind losing at a demonstration.
Right. I do love this one actually. This is great because they printed out the image, the climate catastrophe,
Yep.
like climate
And
change.
they
Yeah.
just put it in there. It doesn't affect the
Wow.
sound all that much. So there's a lot of variations. You put
Very cool.
stickers on the inside. Sometimes you can put things on the rattle things on the inside, sand or something to make it change the tone. All kinds of variations you can do with those.
How did you learn this? Did you just workshop this? or-
I worked with a group called the Puppetistas that worked with the School of America's Watch in Georgia, and there was a participant there who, I don't know where he learned it or he made it up, but he showed me how to do these, and I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for spreading
and
that
also
knowledge.
for that information too, we have puppetista.org/drums. There's resources on how to do all these, how
Yeah,
to make these
very
drums as a
exciting.
video, so you guys can get that online.
Puppetista.org.
Puppetista.org.
Thank you.
So, again, the first thing I think is getting the instruments, because if you just show up with a pile of pots and pans and drumsticks and start handing them out, you will probably have a really loud, raucous demonstration. You don't have to be a musician, you don't have to train, you don't have to do anything. The next step is to try to make it sound a little better. Because when the drumming is good, people get super energized. So some of the tricks with drumming is trying to balance some of the instruments, so you might have a low tone and a high tone kind of going at the same time. You'll want to try to synchronize a lot of your music where everyone's kind of playing the same part or the same set of a few number of parts that work together and interact. And those are things that we could play a little bit now. So now's the time.
Oh.
So come on up.
Dear audience members.
Yes.
Oh, I love
we'll
it.
try to
Yay.
do a little music now. So.
Okay, cool. I'm going to put this down, I think.
Okay. Y ustedes escogen ya como quieren. ¿Cuál le encanta tocar? ¿Alguien sí ha
We're going to
tocado
get a little
antes?
real demonstration here.
Okay. So, now, remember, we're going to have to be mobile. Tenemos que pensar que lo vamos a tener que cargar. Entonces, si vas a eso, tienes que ser un equipo de dos personas mínimas. Un equipo. Se llama el equipo. Este lo puede tocar con la mano o también así. Sí. Lo van a agarrar así para no tapar el sonido. Y así, como agarrar así. Sí. Como ya. Sí. Sí, perfecto. ¿Ya? Escuchar. So that implies two things. One, you're going to listen to yourself, how you sound, and the other is you're going to listen to everybody around you. So tienes que escuchar a sí mismo y también a todo lo demás que están tocando. Ese es lo más importante. Antes de tocar es escuchar lo que está pasando. The other rule is don't play unless everyone else is playing. So that's going to imply that we're going to have a good clean start and a good clean stop. So no tocan hasta que todos están tocando. Ya empezamos todos juntos, ya paramos todos juntos. And the third rule is the absolute most important. Lo más importante, la regla más importante es divertirse. So have fun, right? If you're not having fun, if you're playing and you're sore or your ears hurt, or you're uncomfortable, or the beat's wrong, if you feel weird, it's not wrong. You're doing it wrong. You're actually not playing wrong. So those three rules are really crucial. That's kind of like what I've kind of distilled. Las tres reglas importantes para que todo su grupo salga bien. So what I'd like to do for the second rule is kind of work on starting and stopping. So before to do that, let's maybe get a beat going. And you can put kind of both, why don't you both play it, and then you can take turns to play it. Both playing the same drum here. So I think we're going to try a rhythm from Brazil, and it's called samba reggae, or Afro music from Brazil. So for this, there's kind of a rhythm here, which is, let's start with here. the other thing, one trick when you're playing drums is, and this is back to the first rule of listening. To be able to listen, you have to be close together. So once you start parading, once you get in a demonstration, there's a tendency to stretch out. Other people will come in and push you apart. Or some of you will move faster, and some of you move a lot slower. And so the faster people will go in front, and the slower people go in the back. And you get stretched out. Once you get too far apart, you can't hear each other. And so the second rule, you've broken the second rule, you're not listening to each other. And the music tends to fall apart. So what you have to do is concerted effort to stay together. In Brazil, tiene un cordão. There's a rope. They actually put a rope around the drummers, like an actual rope to keep them all together. That idea that you have to kind of do that psychologically, make sure. Usually, what you want to do is take the largest, slowest drum, and everybody stays close to that drum. So just make sure you're not going further. This small group, it's not so important, but when you do the drums in a demonstration, you'll tend to get stretched out. You have to consciously avoid that. Be very careful. People come in always. So, gente le anima con los tambores y se va, se mete y se expande su grupo y ya no puede. Entonces es importante quedar todos juntos así para no perder el ritmo, para oír todo entre sí. Porque si tocas así en el contratiempo, así si están un check y no se puede oír, se va a salir el ritmo. That's really important when we're marching. One more thing is playing along with chants is another technique that's really important. So ideally you have somebody who knows the chants, who has really good rhythm. If you have that, that's great. If you don't, sometimes you just have to play and ignore the chant. But ideally you have the chant. So does anyone know any chants here?
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
No justice, no peace.
No peace. Pueblo, legal, okay, so those kind of chants. Yeah, whatever you guys like. We'll try to do a rhythm that goes with it. So you want to not kind of, you want to add to that instead of take away from it. So let's see if we can get somebody who's a chant leader who has good rhythm. Okay, good. So you keep chanting, and then we're going to try to play along with you, all right? But keep chanting now.
Free, free Palestine.
Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Palestine.
Free, free Palestine.
Palestine.
Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine.
let's try another chant. Let's see if we can do this rhythm. How about what's that one? It's kind of funky. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy. Have you heard that one? That's what San Diego one. Okay. So for that one, we're going to do a different rhythm. That's kind of more like a hip hop sort of thing. So let's see if we can get the chant going, and then I'll give you. Well, no, maybe
It's like show me what democracy
Yeah.
looks like.
Yeah. Okay. So for this one, we're going to kind of have that same high-low thing, but instead it kind of like. Let's try one more chant in. Sometimes these are rhythms that are what we call in 4 or 2 binary. There's other ones that kind of have a triplet feel or a tertiary, a 3 feel, a 6/8, a 3, kind of a waltz, that kind of thing. So let's try one of those.
What about is the one that I mentioned earlier to tie it back, the from Palestine and Mexico? All the walls have got to go.
That would be more like what we just did.
Oh, okay,
I think
okay,
it would work. That would work well. I'm thinking more like. That's not a good one. I can't even think of a good chant, so let's forget it. Let's go back. Yeah.
Can I change my instrument?
Sure. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Do you guys want to switch? Try a different?
I look.
Oh yeah, you like to do that.
What about Israel?
acuérdense, todos juntos alrededor del grande, porque ese es el más difícil para cargar.
Nos vamos enfrente, atrás. ¿Cómo puede ubicar?
Yo creo que unos enfrente y otros atrás, pero sí, no, mejor todos atrás.
Todos atrás.
Ese se mueve, es lo más difícil, o de un lado. So, why don't we start with the chant leader? You got it? And then we'll all kind of play along with the chant.
Okay, right now?
Yeah, sure.
SDPD, KKK, IDF, you're all the same. SDPD, KKK, IDF, you're all the same. SDPD, KKK, IDF, you're all the same. SDPD, KKK, IDF, you're all the same.
Y ya caminando la gente se va y se va repartiendo todo para la
Como en
gente.
las marchas.
Sí, y así juntar. Entonces puede llegar a una manifestación. Si tienen como 2 o 3 personas, amigos,
No, yo
que
uso-
sabe que voy a llegar a la manifestación con tambores, y si lleva unos extras, así llega y ya puede tener todo su grupo. So you just need to like get there with 2 or 3 friends that you know are solid, that you've played with, and then bring some extra drums and you've got it. You've got your thing. If you want, you can have rehearsals. You know, you can learn rhythms. You can get really good at drumming. You take drum classes, all that stuff. But you know, all you need is a bunch of pots and pans. So you can make it as simple as you want or as complex.
Thank you so much for sharing this.
No, yeah, thank you. Yeah, but do remember.
Too late, Arnie.
When you hear the tinnitus,
Yeah.
it's too late. You've already damaged your ears. So when you get that tinnitus, that means you should have worn the earplugs. So for long term, yeah, put your earplugs on.
Not
Public
this
service
time.
announcement.
Next time.
Next time.
Thank you.
Okay, gracias. Okay,